Well, I'm thinking of two adversaries in the proceedings who basically knew 10% of each other. And so there was 10% of one person in combat against 10% of another. That's a very static, one-dimensional, uncreative framework for dealing with differences. So if they leave here and it's 60% of a person dealing with 60% of a person, their chances of transforming that and doing something creative have increased by sixfold. That's critical to the way democracy is supposed to work, and it no longer works that way in Washington. When I worked on Capitol Hill, they said again and again, we used to know each other personally. We used to know each other's families. We used to live in Washington. Our kids used to play softball together. We used to hang out together and have a beer at night. And now they're virtual strangers. And virtual strangers do not make good policy.
There were many references to the challenges in coming here and the risk that it took. It was interesting when Mark asked the group, give a number to what was your level of trust when you came, and then what was your level of trust now. Virtually everyone, with the exception of maybe perhaps two people, their trust level increased rather substantially during the last couple of days. And when we asked the group why, they said, well, because we saw another human being. They saw the full picture there. And also they felt respected, they felt heard, they felt recognized. And they were surprised that the other was as flexible as they were, that there were these unexpected places where they could converge, where they could agree. But I think the main thing was is the humanization of people who have been reduced to demon status. That's really the very unfortunate characteristic of our political discourse today.
Why have an argument with somebody if you don't have to? Why make an argument personal if you can learn to know and even like somebody who you're going to disagree with on policy issues? One of the things that simply spending time with 20 or 30 people does is it breaks down some of the caricatures that people may have of people on the left think everyone on the right is X, Y, or Z, or the other way around. So you learn that you can disagree with people without being disagreeable.
And I was curious because, some of our people, I don't know how they were going to react, but I have received so many positive emails from our constituents and, surprisingly, from Move On constituents who've actually emailed me over at Christian Coalition. And they just, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming together. This is true, nonpartisan. I mean, so it's been fairly positive. I haven't received hardly any negative. About the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, there are always people that are going to be unhappy because they've gotten set in this us and them situation. But most Americans want to be united.
Right.
I mean, we want to have a relationship. I think that's what makes politics so unattractive to too many Americans. And we need those people to participate.
There are millions of people who feel disconnected from the political dialogue in America. They think it's irrelevant to them. They think their voices are not being heard. And unfortunately, they're not entirely wrong to feel that way. We've wandered into a political region in which partisan conflict has become more intense than in almost any other period in American history. And that makes it especially important now to find ways to use the conflict for good rather than to allow it to unravel the country. The transpartisan movement is beginning to foster so much communication across the partisan boundaries that the boundaries themselves are beginning to be much more porous. I don't know if they'll ever come down, maybe not, but they may well return to a more healthy kind of boundary rather than an impenetrable barrier.